HTML is so often brushed off as the quote unquote easy part of web development, but actually, behind every flawless, highly ranked web application is a strictly enforced, incredibly accessible architecture. So, in this explainer, we're going to look right past the basic syntax and explore how modern developers actually build the true structural blueprint of the web. Think about it for a second. When a browser, or say a Google crawler, or even a screen reader hits a web page, it absolutely does not see the pretty design. It sees a DOM tree. Making sense of all that chaos relies entirely on this hidden, structured language of tags. Okay, so today's blueprint covers 4 key areas. We've got 1. Taming chaos with lists. 2. Visuals and hyperlinks. 3. Building semantic architecture. And finally, 4. Headers, footers, and navigation. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, Taming Chaos with Lists, where we're organizing raw text. Now, you already know the ordered list, or the OL tag, but semantically speaking, this is actually telling the browser that the sequence is absolutely mission-critical to the data. And by leveraging the type attribute, you as a developer can natively shift from standard numbers to Roman numerals, and you don't even have to touch a single line of CSS. Pretty cool, right? On the flip side, for unordered data, think of a feature checklist or maybe a UI dropdown menu. The UL tag steps in. It dictates grouping to the browser, but without enforcing that strict hierarchy. Instead, it just relies on native bullet points to structure your array of items. Interestingly, before CSS became the absolute gold standard for styling, developers relied really heavily on manipulating the type attribute right within the UL tag itself. Swapping from a default disk to a circle or a square natively in the HTML, well, it was kind of a quick and dirty hack to change the aesthetic without ever having to write a style sheet. And then we have the description list. This one is so often overlooked, but honestly, it's an absolute SEO goldmine for things like FAQs or glossaries. By pairing the DT description term directly with the DD definition, you're creating this tight semantic relationship that search engines literally love to scrape for those rich snippets. Moving on to Section 2, Visuals and Hyperlinks. This is all about adding life and connectivity. So check out the term empty element. You might also hear it called a void element. Basically, this is a standalone tag, like the image tag, that doesn't encapsulate any text. Because of that, it literally never needs a closing tag. You just define the source, and well, the browser handles the rest of the heavy lifting. But here's the thing. Adding alt text to those images isn't just a nice to have. It's a strict structural mandate. Beyond just SEO and fallback displays, failing to provide alt text is actually one of the leading causes of ADA compliance lawsuits against websites right now. Your blueprint has to serve human users, screen readers, and legal standards alike. It's absolutely crucial. Next up, the anchor tag. This is essentially the foundational pathway of the entire internet. While the href attribute dictates your actual routing destination, utilizing the title attribute injects these native, completely script-free tooltips that vastly improve the user experience whenever they hover over a link. And controlling those pathways via the target attribute, that is a critical UX decision. Forcing a .blank new window actually preserves the user's state on your application. It's a highly strategic move to keep bounce rates down when you're linking out to external domains. All right, Section 3, Building Semantic Architecture. Let's talk about creating meaningful rooms. Thank goodness we are moving away from the era of endless div soup. The section element allows us to create distinct thematic groupings. When you group your intro, your services, or your contact info this way, you're feeding search engines a highly digestible, perfectly organized map of your page's structural intent. Now, the article element, on the other hand, is built specifically for syndication. It's perfect for a blog post or a product review because the key concept here is independence. If you stripped away the entire rest of the website, an article block should retain 100% of its context and meaning. And honestly, this is a trap so many developers fall into, mixing up sections and articles. So just remember it like this. Sections group related content to organize a single page's flow. Articles, they are completely standalone entities that are totally ready for external distribution. Now, what if you have supplementary content? Say, an ad banner, a sidebar, or an author bio. That is where the aside element becomes your best friend. It explicitly tells the browser, hey, this is highly relevant, but it's tangential. Don't let it dilute the main structural hierarchy. Which brings us to Section 4, Headers, Footers, and Navigation. Let's frame this page. See, the header isn't just a pretty visual top bar, it's really the semantic crown of your document. By hosting your logo, your global search, and your site title, it sets the absolute structural hierarchy the very millisecond a crawler or a user arrives on your site. And tucked safely inside that header is the nav element. By semantically isolating your core navigation links right here, you drastically improve screen reader performance, and you're essentially handing search engines an instant map to index your site's architectural tree. Finally, anchoring the whole document at the bottom is the footer. It provides foundational closure. Semantically, it's the expected home for your copyright data, legal policies, and global site links, just cleanly wrapping up the entire document's structure. So there you have it. We've officially decoded both the macro and microstructures of the web. From leveraging semantic tags for SEO dominance to building inherently accessible DOM trees, HTML is just so much more than rendering plain text on a screen. Armed with these architectural best practices, how are you going to refactor your next digital project? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning and keep building.